Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Hi, friends. How are you? I hope you're in good circumstance and in good health. We may be finishing this third of the Threefold Lotus Sutras today. Shakyamuni just got done speaking in verse about the six sense organs. Of course, we've studied at some length, about the five aggregates, the skandhas Vasubandhu went into, but the sixth would be our mind, our samsaric mind. Knowing how to distinguish the samsaric mind from the all-knowing without beginning or end mind of Tathagata-ness is quite a shift in paradigm, yeah? It's quite something when you sense, and I think because we are Saha world beings, physical beings, and so admired in the senses and the samsaric experience. When we first start fusing with mandala or awakening that Buddha mind, that opening that Gohanzon door, yeah? I think we struggle to, again, with our samsaric tools, define it. What does it look like, smell like? What is this? What is happening? Everything looks new. Well, new, what do you mean new? Because nothing is new. That's samsara talking. It's so pervasive. So words fall apart here. Shakyamuni said as much, yeah? It's as though the very concept of new it's silly. Well, every moment is new. And every moment is just another instantiation of potential. To live in a mind that simply experiences even to say everything is samsaric, because it's not everything, it's simply the engine of life, happening, being, moment to moment to moment. How to put that into words? And so I see in this epilogue an attempt to say, okay, here we are in the Saha world with our samsaric mind, and how can we turn it in on itself? How can we take that very delusion-making samsaric mind, reflect on itself, so that by reflecting on itself, it can see the absurdity of itself? Yeah, it's a conundrum. How do you talk about this? Having spoken these verses, the Buddha addressed Ananda again. Do you now thoroughly reflect on these six organ consciousnesses? Keep the law of meditating on the Bodhisattva Universal Virtue, in other words, the disconnected experience of totality. I mean, to fathom the cosmos it's to break one's mind. We have these labels. Oh yeah, the universe. Oh yeah, the cosmos. Oh yeah, it fits in this nice little grammatical box. Really? With all of the science and advancement and courage and efforts to just get off this one little tiny little blue marble in the in the solar system, let alone our galaxy. You know, for a long time, the galaxy we thought was the universe. Now we know the galaxy is just, it's just a little tiny speck of dust. The whole galaxy. It's just inconceivable, yeah? I'm reminded of Horton Hears a Who. What an amazing visualization. That man was a genius. So Bodhisattva Universal Virtue is this potential that's part of the engine of life, that is the entirety of the universe, which we cannot fathom. We try, and the more we fathom, the more awestruck we are, but we still can't. Buddhahood has the promise of at least putting us in that state of awe, constantly observing. So huge. And disseminate and explain it widely to all the universal realms of influence of the universe and men. Because when we touch upon this enlightenment, this awakening, it radiates everywhere, not just other people, and everywhere, another samsaric term. It's limitless. It goes on. It is so limitless, it is without time. It breaks perception, yeah? And certainly others are going to sense that because they all have inherently that potential also. After the extinction of the Buddha, if all his disciples receive and keep, read and recite and expound the sutras of great extent, Myoho Renge Kyo, whether in a quiet place or in a graveyard or under a tree or in a place of the aranya, they must read and recite the sutras of great extent and must think of the meaning of the one great vehicle. Right? The meaning. Why? Because we have to transcend these silly, opportunistic, samsaric words. Because the answer isn't in the words. It's in the understanding, the conveyance, the conveyed of the words. I have a note here. This is restated through Nichiren's clear doctrine of Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, chanting, Gongyo, etc. Right? Nichiren, what a great man, really nailed this down for us. It's like, if you can't do it now, by virtue of the strong power of their reflecting on the sutras, they will be able to see myself, the stupa of the Buddha abundant treasures, thank you, Nichiren, the countless emanated Buddhas from all directions, the Bodhisattva Universal Virtue, the Bodhisattva Manjushri, the Bodhisattva Medicine King, the Bodhisattva Medicine Lord. You'll perceive the whole thing. The headspace of enlightenment. By virtue of their revering the law, these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas abiding in the sky with various wonderful flowers will extol and revere those who practice and keep the law. It's significant, I say here, to understand that these are statements of attitude and the protections manifested of strong will, attitude, and intent. You ever seen anyone, known anyone, maybe yourself included? We're so committed, convinced in mind that your ability was going to be such and such, and then you executed on it, only afterward to think, I don't know how I did that, except that I really, 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 really gave myself no other choice. This is what I must do. And it happens. And we see people like that who, well, in truth, we tend to, samsara. We either become jealous of them, or we put them down, or who do you think you are, or she thinks she's so this, or and then they execute, and you go, I hate that person. Why? We should be thankful to witness it, right? I don't mean to make too much of them, but I mean, that's the other knee-jerk reaction, right? We turn them into gods, quote unquote. No, just appreciate attitude and intent and how incredibly powerful that is. By virtue of their only reciting the sutras of great extent, the great vehicle, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas will day and night pay homage to those who keep the law. The Buddha addressed Ananda, I, as well as the Bodhisattvas in the virtuous Kalpa, and the Buddhas in all directions, by means of our thinking of the true meaning of the great vehicle, have now rid ourselves of the errors or delusions of the cycle of birth and death during hundreds of myriads kotis of asamkhaya kalpas. By means of this supreme and wonderful law of thoughtful reflection, we have each become the Buddhas in all directions. Now, if that isn't a message to the Sangha, what is? Right? Shakyamuni is putting himself on the very same playing field as you and I. There's no reason at all you can't do this. Just do as I'm saying. Find the meaning in this for your own mind. Yeah. If one desires to accomplish complete and perfect enlightenment rapidly and wishes in his present life to see the Buddhas in all directions and the Bodhisattva Universal Virtue, he must take a bath to purify himself. In other words, just open mind. Cleanse yourself. Wear clean robes and burn rare incense and dwell in a secluded place where he should recite and read the Great Vehicle Sutras and think of the meaning of the Great Vehicle. Right? Pay some respect. Develop some dignity for this, what you're about to accomplish. Right? I think back to some times when I was just in such desperate states where I dragged myself in front of Butsudan and chanted. But you know, what drove me to that was all the times that I sat upright, breathing, Butsudan above my eye line, focused. Certainly there must be in me something that is worthy of this respect with that kind of a ichinen, yeah? The Buddha addressed Ananda again. If there are living beings who desire to meditate on the Bodhisattva Universal Virtue, they must meditate this way. If anyone meditates thus, such is called one who meditates rightly. Right dignity, right attitude. If anyone meditates otherwise, such is called one who meditates falsely. You meditate on emptying your mind. You meditate on the power of crystals. You meditate on whatever. No, that's not it. That's samsara. That's mental masturbation. You're not getting anywhere here. I have a note here. Let's see what I said. This is a point that I have discussed with some of the Sangha. I may have also touched on this intent in the videos, podcasts regarding our thoughts and attitudes when chanting. The lesson here is the critical difference between meditating or meditation for change or for opportunity or basically any Saha world alteration versus chanting for Buddhahood. Buddhahood, via cleansing or purifying one's karmic tendencies and repercussions from false ideas or influences. Having so said it, it becomes obvious, I think, that this is yet another exhortation to stay focused on the prize, always. The prize being enlightenment for the self and all others. Yeah, you've heard me rail about, chanting for things when it is our attachment to things that we're trying to get rid of. That's not Buddhism. That's what upsets me. After the extinction of the Buddha, if all his disciples obediently follow the Buddha's words and practice thoughtful reflection, let it be known that these are doing the work of universal virtue. Those who do the work of universal virtue see neither deluded or malicious aspects nor the repercussion of deluded and malicious karma repercussions. If there be any living beings who salute the Buddhas in all directions 6 times a day and night, recite the great Vehicle Sutras, and consider the profound law of the empty of the first principle, they will rid themselves of the errors and delusions of the cycle of birth and death, produced during hundreds of myriads of kotis of asamkaya kalpas in the short time it takes one to snap his fingers. Remember the 8-year-old dragon daughter's offer of the jewel, the wisdom? Instantly she changes, she becomes a Buddha. That's what we're doing when we chant. You do realize that, right? Moments being so brief, though, we have to continuously train our mind to keep that Gohanzon door open. Ventilate this samsara, yeah? Anyone doing this work is a real Buddha son or daughter who is born from the Buddhas. The Buddhas in all directions and Bodhisattvas will become his preceptors. This is called one who perfects in the precepts of the Bodhisattva. Without going through the ceremony of reflection, he will of himself accomplish Bodhisattvahood and will be revered by all universal realms of influence in men. Did I read that right? At that time, if the practitioner desires to perfect in the precepts of Bodhisattva, he must fold his hands, dwell in the seclusion of the wilds, universally salute the Buddhas in all directions, and reflect on his errors or delusions, and must himself thoughtfully consider his errors. After this, in a calm space, he should speak to the Buddhas in all directions, saying thus. Now, this isn't, some would interpret this as repentance. No. This reflection is about identifying our samsaric wanderings and how they continuously affect or impose tendencies and conditions in our lives that are useless. They're nonsense. Right? And by recognizing that, we can fully commit to Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. But I'm saying to you, as Nichiren has, that this is a very old way of reinvestigating the mind. We don't need to do this anymore. Because by the very act of respectfully chanting Namo Myoho Renge Kyo to our mandala, we are We are doing this. How much more easy could it be? But if you have moments of solace and you don't know what to do with yourself and you're not chanting, why aren't you chanting? It's not about feeling guilty. It's about recognizing, I've just been so busy misleading myself. It should raise the commitment to chant. This is what Nichiren tells us in Earthly Desires Are Enlightenment. Because that's what this is about, looking at our constant reinvestigation and justification for our desires. Right? Let that motivate you to go, done with that. Namo Myo Renge Kyo. Yeah? The Buddhas, the world-honored ones, remain forever in this world. Well, of course, this is the engine of life. How could it be otherwise? Right? Because of the impediments of my karma repercussions, though I accept in the sutras of the great extent, I cannot clearly see the Buddhas. I have now taken refuge in the Buddhas. This is that transitionary moment when you commit. Namo Myo Renge Kyo. Nichiren gives us the perfect tool. In the Lotus Sutra, still talking about it. People weren't ready at the time to hear this method. Please, be pleased, Shakyamuni Buddha, all wise and world-honored one, to be my preceptor, Manjushri, possessor of great compassion. With your wisdom, be pleased to bestow on me the laws of pure Bodhisattva. Namo Myo Renge Kyo. Bodhisattva Maitreya, supreme and great compassionate Son, Sun, S-U-N. Out of your compassion for me, be pleased to permit me to receive the laws of the Bodhisattva. You don't need permission. But okay, you have it. Just do it. Buddhas in all directions, be pleased to reveal yourselves and bear testimony to me. Have you heard me on this channel in the past? Say, man, if you're struggling, open your Butsudan, turn the lights on, burn some incense, burn some candles, sit up straight, look at the characters Myo and Ho on your mandala, and you'll see the whole thing, and demand Buddha right now. I mean, strong determination, commitment. Even, I think I've said at times, get angry about it. It's like grabbing yourself by the shoulders and going, I'm not saying that's how you should always chant, but I'm saying sometimes we get very frustrated with our world. We don't know it's ourselves, but, right? We externalize everything. So externalize it on the mandala. That's what Nichiren is saying. Take those earthly desires, take those frustrations, take those things that you want, and pull a pile driver on your mandala. Just single-mindedly seek Buddha. You can do it calmly. Challenge your whatever nature that is, yeah. Buddhas in all directions, be pleased to reveal yourselves and bear testimony to me. Isn't that what he's saying? It's nice. Be pleased, gimme. But it's it's much more than that, yes. Great Bodhisattvas, exclamation points. There's a reason there's exclamation points here, yeah? Through calling each upon your names, be pleased, supreme great leaders, to protect all living beings and to help us. At present, I have received and kept the sutras of great extent. Even if I should lose my life, fall into hell, and receive innumerable sufferings, I would never slander the right Dharma law of the Buddhas. Yeah. For this reason, and by the power of this merit, Shakyamuni Buddha, exclamation point, be now pleased to be my preceptor. Excuse me. Demand. Manjushri, be pleased to be my teacher. Maitreya, in the world to come, be pleased to bestow on me the law. What law? Engine of life, Myoho Rengekyo. Give me that experience, that perception. Buddhas in all directions, be pleased to bear witness to me. Me. It's such a self-organized term, right? But again, these are translations. I don't know what the original Prakrit sounded like. But we can get the gist, right? Meaning. We want to know the meaning. Bodhisattvas of great virtue, be pleased to be my friends. I now, by means of the profound and abiding meaning of the great Vehicle Sutras, take refuge in the Buddha, take refuge in the law, take refuge in the Sangha. The practitioner must speak thus 3 times. Having taken refuge in the 3 treasures, next he must himself vow to receive the 6-fold laws. Right? The 5 Buddhist precepts: not to take a life, not to steal, to refrain from wrong sexual activities, not to lie, and not to drink intoxicants, and not to speak of other people's faults. The 6 precepts enumerated, plus not to conceal one's faults and not to emphasize others' shortcomings rather than good points. Just be a good person. Having received the 6-fold laws, next he must zealously practice the unhindered Brahma conduct, raise the mind of universally emancipating all living beings, and receive the 8-fold laws. Having made such vows in the seclusion of the wilds, in other words, in your own mind, he must burn rare incense, strew flowers, pay homage to all the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, the sutras of the great extent, of the great vehicle, and must speak thus, saying, I have now raised the aspiration to Buddhahood. May this merit liberate all the living. And this is what we've been talking about over and over and over again. You can almost read this chapter as a slow motion move toward your Butsudan. Your mental commitments clarifying as you come to Mandala. Having spoken thus, the practitioner should again further prostrate himself before the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and should think of the meaning of the sutras of great extent. During a day or 3 times 7 days, whether he be a monk or a layman, he has no need of a preceptor, nor does he need to employ any teacher. Even without attending the ceremony of the Jnapti Karman, because of the power coming from his receiving and keeping, reading and reciting the great Vehicle Sutras, and because of the works which the Bodhisattva Universal Virtue helps and inspires him to do, they are in fact the eyes of the right Dharma law of the Buddhas in all directions. He will be able, through this law, to perform by himself the 5 kinds of law bodies, precepts, meditation, wisdom, emancipation, and knowledge of emancipation. So what was all that? All of this blah, blah, blah. If you simply read, recite, copy, embrace this sutra, Myoho Renge Kyo. You don't need to beseech all of these universal forces because they're in you. Just be them. What? Yeah. Nichiren got this. Just chant Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. That's why Namu is so important. I, me, the presence, yes, this thing I call me, self. Let me transcend, let me transmigrate this samsaric saha world me to the Buddha enlightened experience of all me-ness, the suchness of being in all things. Me being a witness. Not this. This is a handy vehicle to contain Buddha-ness. The Buddha-ness is what we want. We don't get rid of anything. We need this. Well, I need this. You need yours, but right? Because this is what allows us to emerge this sentient mind. Without the sentient mind, none of this matters. This is nothing. Therefore, O wise man, I skipped one. All the Buddhas, the Tathagata, have been born of this law and have received the prediction of their enlightenment in the great Vehicle Sutras. We're all a product of, a form in the realm of forms of the engine of life. All of us. Everything. Thing. Samsara, right? Therefore, O wise man, suppose that a Sravaka breaks the threefold refuge, the 5 precepts, the 8 precepts, the precepts of bhikshus, of bhikshunis, of shramaneras, of shramanerikas, and of shikshamanas, and their dignified behavior, and also suppose that because of his foolishness, deluded and malicious, and negative and false mind, he infringes many precepts and the rules of dignified behavior. If he desires to rid himself of and destroy these errors to become a bhikshu again, and to fulfill the laws of monks, he must diligently read the sutras of great extent, considering the profound law of the empty of the first principle, and must bring this wisdom of the empty to his heart. You have to enlighten your mind so that you perceive the impermanence, the constant moment to moment, the reality that is potential formation into form in each moment of life. Life is that experience. So far supersedes all the little minutiae that we possess. We don't really possess anything. All we possess is a sentient mind to observe the constant instantiation and dissolution of the realm of forms. The engine of life. Know that in each one of these thoughts, such a one will gradually end the defilement of all his long-standing errors or delusions without any remainder, because it never was there. This is called one who is perfect in the laws and precepts of monks and fulfills their dignified behavior. Such a one will be served by all universal realms of influence, and men suppose any upasaka violates his dignified behavior and does bad things. To do bad things means, namely, to proclaim the errors and delusions of the Buddha laws, to discuss deluded and malicious things perpetrated by the four groups, and not to feel shame even in committing theft and adultery. If he desires to regret and rid himself of these errors and delusions, he must zealously read and recite the sutras of great extent and must think of the first principle. Break free of your attachments, right? Suppose a king, a minister, a Brahmin, a citizen, an elder, a state official, all of these persons seek greedily and untiringly after desires. Commit the 5 deadly errors or delusions, slander the sutras of great extent, and perform the 10 deluded and malicious karma repercussions. Right? What are karma repercussions? Quite simply, any actions that manifest from karmic tendencies and conditions. They're not all bad, but many of those repercussions, if they're left to their own natures, will anchor us in desires and defilement and delusions about reality. But with a Buddha mind, if we keep our Buddha mind open and the eye open, observing, then whatever our karmic tendencies or conditions, they're all influenced to the best possible instantiation. Right? Fire is a great thing. It provides us with all manner of warmth, security, cooking food, killing bacteria, replenishing forests. But it can also be incredibly destructive, yes. It's just a matter of how it is utilized, how it is influenced. Same thing with karma. Their recompense for these great deluded and erroneous ideas will cause them to fall into deeper illusions and erroneous paths faster than the breaking of a rainstorm. They will be sure to fall into the Avicii hell. And I've explained before what the Avicii hell is, right? We live in the Saha world. And the Saha world is a physical world in which we are free to experience the engine of life. If we choose to experience the Saha world samsarically as everything being discriminated, distinguished, permanent, and possibly ours or owned by us in some funky mind play of I have more than you, you have less than me, mine are better, all of that. That's all samsara, right? That is the world that the First Noble Truth describes. First thing Shakyamuni taught, right? To the people he was talking to, that was life, and all life is suffering. Well, all life is not suffering. But to the samsaric mind, all life is suffering, right? Life sucks, then you die, right? Who hasn't heard that? But it's not once you truly understand what's happening. So that Avicii hell, where is it? It's in the mind. Oh my goodness. Attitude and intent. If they desire to rid themselves and destroy these impediments of karma repercussions, they must raise humility and reflect on all these errors and delusions. Be ready to let go of these things that you're so attached to. Yeah? The Buddha spoke, saying, "Why is it called a law of reprieve? And The law of reprieve of Kshatriyas and citizens is that they must constantly have the right mind, not slander the three treasures or hinder the monks, nor persecute anyone practicing Brahma conduct. It's pretty simple. It sounds like kindergarten, right? Golden rules. They must not forget to practice the law of the six reflections. They must again support, pay homage to, and surely salute the keepers of the great vehicle. They must remember the profound doctrine of sutras and empty of the first principle. One who thinks of this law is called one who practices the reprieve of kshatriyas and citizens. Their second reprieve is to discharge their filial duty to their fathers and mothers and to respect their teachers and seniors. This is called one who practices the law of the second contemplation. This is all about behavior, isn't it? Comportments. So we've talked about the comportment of a bodhisattva, the comportment of the teacher of the law. All of these. This final chapter is to all living beings, right? Their third reprieve is to rule their countries with the right Dharma law and not to oppress their people unjustly. This is called one who practices the third contemplation. Boy, the world is really struggling with that one today, isn't it? The fourth is to issue with their states the ordinance of the 6 days of fasting and to cause their people to abstain from killing wherever their powers reach. One who practices such a law is called one who practices the fourth contemplation. Well, war kind of blows that one all to hell, doesn't it? Fifth reprieve, accept deeply the causes and results of things. To have resolve in the way of one reality and to know the Buddha is never extinct. This is called one who practices the fifth contemplation. The Buddha addressed Ananda, if in the future there be any who practice these laws of thoughtful reflection, know that such a man has put on the robes of humility, is protected and helped by the Buddhas, and will attain complete and perfect enlightenment before long. As these words were spoken, 10,000 transcendent sons acquired pure spiritual eyes, and also the great bodhisattvas, the Bodhisattva Maitreya and others, and Ananda, hearing the teaching of the Buddha, all rejoiced and did as the Buddha commanded. Little note from me. This epilogue is it becomes quickly evident, is a recap of the entire sutra of the Lotus Dharma law. It is also plain to see that all the enumerated purifications are included within the recitation of the Lotus Sutra as prescribed by Nichiren in the doctrine of Gangyo recitations, right? As such, the highlights are the constant resolve to stay aware of and cognizant of one's deluded thoughts and distractions that defile one's sense organs, including the mind itself. There is ample encouragement to self-reflection as a constant driver to recite, read, write, teach, share, and generally practice the teachings of this sutra. This closing chapter is an enumeration of motivators for one's constant and dedicated practice of Namu Myoho Renge Kyo that leads us in a straight line to the scholarship and doctrine of Bodhisattva Nichiren, leader of the Bodhisattvas of the earth, mentor and teacher. And that's it, my friends. That's the Threefold Lotus Sutra. I have an appendix here with the 10 paramitas of Mahayana Buddhism for your edification. And the appendix B is on the 7 jewels and how I equate those with Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. And that's it, my friends. Now that I've done that final little typo, I will upload this today to finalize the publications online. I'm sure I missed some little typos here and there, but I think this is a pretty complete summary and analysis of the Lotus Sutra, certainly for our modern practice. I've heard from you that you've really appreciated this series. For me, it was really important for me to do this to honor fully, from my over 40 years of study, the insights that I've gotten from this teaching. Boy, they've changed over the decades, absolutely. And all of it is due to Namo Myoho Geikyo. I really don't know what I'm going to do next. This seems like the most significant thing. So I may take some time to reflect. I'm certainly going to work on this publication. Let me know in the comments what you still need to hear or to have greater understanding of. I'd like that to drive the videos from this point on. I know I still need to do the audio on the rest of the Buddhism reference. I haven't forgotten that. This was such an important task. I think I just need to take a few days to breathe. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your practice. Your support is invaluable. Like, subscribe. It's important to grow the Sangha. It's a Bodhisattva act. Those of you, all the links are in the description as usual. If you want an ebook or a print book or a mandala, you can go to the bookstore. Links on the website, right? Lots of free information there, as well as links to the podcasts, which are also free. Thank you, patrons. Thank you, practitioners of Nichiren's doctrine of Shakyamuni's Lotus Sutra Buddhism. I will see you in the next one. Namo Myoho Geikyo. Bye for now.